I'm Robbie Smith. I'm a journalist on Fublocked and running the No to Lisbon blog for Sinn Féin right now. And the reason I think the treaty is good that it was rejected is that politics happened and people had to debate things and discuss things, and it was more, how would you call it, positive than an election campaign, because people couldn't be bought, they couldn't be offered tax cuts or other incentives. They had to discuss what sort of Europe we wanted to live in. And now that the treaty has been rejected, we can have that conversation on a wider scale. It's been rejected in Holland and France, and now's a chance to go back to the drawing board and kind of think about a better Europe.
My name is Sarah Pickett. I'm an optometrist. I grew up in Cavan and I'm now currently living in Dublin for the past 5 years. And I think Ireland should have voted yes for the Lisbon Treaty for a number of reasons, really. The first one being that I think the treaty's purpose was to allow Europe to function better as a continent, particularly taking into account the new countries that have recently joined the EU. And because of these new countries coming in, the structure of the administrative structure of the EU had to change, and this was allowing for that. And so Ireland, in a sense, has I feel just delayed the progress of Europe now. I think it'll be in the end things will work out, but it's just delayed the progress of a more integrated and better functioning European Union.
Well, I voted no, and I'm happy now I voted no. Because I remember I went to a meeting that was held in Dublin just at the very start of the campaign, and the American academic Susan George, a woman that I would greatly respect as a writer, who now lives in France and was involved in the no vote in France, she came to speak to, it was a public meeting, and I just went along, and I just thought that she was very measured, she was very on top of her subject, it was very unemotional, and I thought what was very interesting for me was that she held up the American Constitution in one hand and she held up the Lisbon Treaty in the other, and she just pointed to the fact that she could understand the American Constitution, she could not understand the Lisbon Treaty. And I mean, that as a journalist immediately rang true for me, because the very fact that you would be trying to get across a complex piece of documentation and information, and that most of us couldn't understand it, and that in some ways the government were making a virtue out of the fact that people couldn't understand it, I think was highly questionable.
There were certainly arguments made that the treaty was impenetrable. There's no doubt about that, and it's not easy reading. But there are aspects of the treaty, the important aspects of the treaty, that people can read, and they're much clearer than people, particularly those on the no side, permitted. The Charter, for example, anybody can read the Charter. The Charter was the subject of a lot of controversy. The Charter is an uplifting document. Now, you either agree or disagree with the principles it enunciates, but it's very clear. The opening chapters of the treaty could again be quite easily read. But I do make this point, and I think it's a fair point that was made by people on both the no side and on the yes side. The nature of the treaty, which was the treaty amending other treaties, means that it's not very citizen-friendly. And there was a need for a citizen-friendly edition to show how the changes would look and to give some sort of citizen's narrative. And I think that, with the benefit of hindsight, that the fact that the Council, the Commission, hadn't produced such a document, and I understand the legal reasons why they didn't produce that document, I think it was probably didn't help the yes campaign.